Hiya! Welcome to LSB Feasters Radio Channel, where we keep great radio from the past alive. Today, we are going to Boston and the Dean of Talk Radio. I'm talking about Jerry Williams. Jerry spent most of his life on the radio doing talk radio, rabble-rousing, and just pretty much stirring the pot. Jerry came to Boston from WIBG in Philadelphia in the late 1950s to go to work at WMEX. He spent many years there until he got the call to go to Chicago. And he went to WBBM, where he did talk radio for a short period till the station flipped format to all news. He went back to Boston and then spent many years on WBZ. After he left WBZ, he had to deal with a non-compete, so he spent some time in Hartford and Philadelphia, but he came back to Boston and he spent many years on WRKO. Jerry was really good at what he did, and I'm telling you, he did not mind stirring things up one bit. If you haven't heard the Dean of Talk Radio, check him out. It's Jerry Williams on WBZ Boston.
A sense of values which reflect that school's attitude toward society. Since he is a living representative of these values, the student is obligated to follow the basic rules of proper conduct, not only in the rigid, disciplined atmosphere of the classroom, but in the outside world as well. If he truly has pride in his school, he must demonstrate it by behaving in a manner which would present a favorable image of it to the public. For this reason, conduct on the MBTA is a matter of school pride. On public transportation, the student is free from the supervision of his teachers. He is on his own in the real world. His ability to cope with this ordinary life situation is a testimonial to the quality of his upbringing, in which the school he attends plays a major part. Improper conduct by him on the MBTA, including acts such as vandalism or needless horseplay, serves only to annoy fellow passengers and lower the esteem in which his school is regarded. The wise student knows this fact, and he acknowledges it by behavior which would bring only praise to his school.
That was Robert Sheehy of Boston Latin. Hopefully the views of a fellow student will carry more weight with young people than the head-shaking and hand-wringing of the older generation.
This has been a WBZ editorial presented by our General Manager, Jim Lightfoot. WBZ welcomes comments on its editorials and recognizes its obligation to present opposing points of view from responsible spokesmen.
Two, 5, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Hello, America, and welcome back to Part 2 of the WBZ 10 to Midnight Ride. This is Jerry Williams. We've been talking tonight about the situation in Leiden, Massachusetts, where the school committee has decided to allow public readings of prayers and Bible readings in the public schools in Leiden's school district, which encompasses 77 students. With us is one of the school committee members, Jerry McCarthy of Leiden, Massachusetts, who is a speech therapist, by the way, and Howard Whiteside of the American Civil Liberties Union. He's with the Church-State Relationship Division, so to speak, here in Massachusetts. And on the telephone is Mr. William Crowley, the Administrative Assistant to the State Commissioner of Education, Neil Sullivan. And Mr. Crowley and Mr. McCarthy have just had an exchange of words. Bill, are you there?
Yes, I am, Jerry.
Why don't you communicate with them? Is there any reason why there hasn't been any communication in terms of the other issues?
The fact that there has not been
in the other issues.
There are, as the Commissioner has pointed out on numerous occasions, numerous problems within the department as far as our personnel, and the School Building Assistance Bureau is one of the most severely hit.
Well, you are admitting that there's a possibility.
We have over 120 vacancies in the department at the present time.
You're admitting that there is a possibility of ignoring the Leiden School Committee when they have a correspondent with you.
Not ignoring. No, I wouldn't say ignoring.
Not communicating. There's a problem
as immediately as some people might like.
All right, it's not. There is a problem of communication.
Due to our staff problems within the department.
Okay, now...
I don't know this for a fact, though.
Yeah, now again, Mr. Crowley, we asked some questions about school boards, particularly the size and the law as far as school boards for union districts. Now, we didn't hear from this department either. Is that short-staffed?
Mr. McCarthy, what is the question?
We can document it. I'm saying that we want to deal with you. Why won't you deal with us?
I suggest, Mr. McCarthy, that you write directly to either the Commissioner or myself, and you will get an answer immediately.
Well, there's
Okay,
a flat statement
that's
of that. Now,
fine.
will you communicate with him on this other level?
Yes, we're going to communicate with him. That's what we've been trying to do in all this time.
I haven't noticed that.
Have you communicated with him in terms of the
communication that we have had with Leiden on this entire matter has been what we have seen and read in the newspapers and in the television.
You know when we got your first communication? It was yesterday.
You received the direct communication Wednesday morning.
Wednesday morning? A direct communication?
I have a report from John Collins, our regional coordinator,
Are you
that
telling
he
me what
spoke personally with you.
He spoke personally with us, and his
Spoke
advice...
personally with you and with Superintendent.
That's right. And you know what he told us? He told us we'd better get a lawyer. All right? Now, what do we do about that?
I have...
well, you've taken the position.
I have
Are you going to
Mr.
get the lawyer?
Collins' answer to that also, and I just assume not go into it at this time. It's a personal report.
But I mean, he gave us no order at that particular time, Mr. Crowley. He said, you'd better get a lawyer. That's my advice.
It is not within Mr. Collins' jurisdiction to order you.
No, he didn't order. I said, I don't want to say that he was unfriendly or demanding and anything like that. I think it was a very friendly meeting, and his tone was friendly, and he said, we would advise you to get a lawyer. And it wasn't an order to me.
Are you going to get a lawyer?
I suppose that this could take place in the foreseeable future.
Was that in answer by any chance to your statement that you have not had legal counsel on this entire matter?
I think he asked me if we were operating, we had legal counsel, and I said no, and he said you'd better get a lawyer. And I think that he offered that with every good wish. Mm-hmm. I think he's a nice man.
Well, I think it is a wise statement that you should get a lawyer.
Yes, I do too. Right?
Yeah. Nevertheless, Bill, you anything you want to add now to this business of the community?
No, only other than the fact, Jerry, that in this entire situation, we are certainly aware of the fact that the 1963 decision of the Supreme Court
well, I think it's obvious.
drew a great deal of unfavorable response from many of the citizens of the country.
Well, I think it's obvious that the Commissioner's position is that if the Leiden School Committee will not obey your communication in terms of abolishing what they have started, that it will be handed over to the Attorney General.
That's exactly
forthwith.
Right. Well, that's true. This is the Attorney General's opinion in 63 spells out our action very clearly.
Yeah. Could I ask Mr. Crowley a question? Would you state for us tonight that you will take personally no punitive action against the town of Leiden, its students, or any members of its school board?
Are you asking me to speak for the Commonwealth?
Or yes, I am, because you're the only one I have here from the Commonwealth. I'll ask Mr. Sullivan if you'll put him on.
Dr. Sullivan is not empowered to answer that question.
Okay.
That is a matter that is strictly for the Attorney General.
I'm asking about your department, not the Attorney General.
Pardon me?
I'm asking...
Will there be any punitive action from your department?
Our department has no...
relative to any other matters before...
Our department has no position as far as punitive action.
You mean you're not saying you won't take punitive action?
The position of the department, as spelled out by Attorney General Brooke in 63, is that if you continue to violate the law of the land, then we must notify the Attorney General.
Right, and I agree you should.
Agencies, and then it is for their disposition only.
Okay, fine.
Okay, Bill, thank you very much in regards to the Commissioner, too. Thank you. It's 11:15 on WBZ. That was Mr. William Crowley, Administrative Assistant to the State Commissioner of Education, Neil Sullivan. Mr. Jerry McCarthy is with us. Howard, before we get to the telephone calls, which are next, can you tell me some of the schooling you've had? I don't have any great bounds of education, but somebody might question you about that, because usually that's a way of getting at people.
I was a graduate of Harvard College and Harvard Law School.
Harvard College and Harvard Law, attorney. Now, Mr. McCarthy, what is your background?
I received my bachelor's degree from Emerson College. I received my master's degree from the University of Massachusetts.
Would you just move in a little closer? We're having a little feedback problem.
Okay. I received my bachelor's degree from Emerson College. I received my master's degree from the University of Massachusetts in education. I have 47 credits, something like that, from Boston University.
What is the makeup of the community of Leiden, anyway? How many people live in Leiden?
Leiden is a small community of 346 people.
Republican community, generally?
Yes, I would say generally. I would say there are probably about 5 Democrats in the town. Quite a bit of. I would say everybody's independent.
5 Democrats.
Right. 5 Democratic
Well,
families.
I would say that's hardly a Democratic city or an independent town.
I would say it's like the reverse of Boston.
Mostly WASPs who live there. White Anglo-Saxon Protestants.
Yeah. Well,
Fine
I don't
term.
know. I don't know that they're Anglo-Saxons. You see. I mean, unless you consider the Germanic tribes Anglo-Saxon.
Well, anyway, mostly Protestants, a dominant Protestant community.
I'd say so. But let me add this: that anyone would be pretty well received in Leiden, well received, no matter what their religious creed.
I think some people will be afraid now. Is there any birch activity up that way? People
No.
on the extreme left or the extreme right?
I don't know of any extreme left or extreme right.
Any students with long hair or funny-looking hippies?
Oh, Leiden has had a hippie community for some time. They just moved over to Charlemont to do some work, and they got a big write-up in True magazine. And these fellows are very interesting people. And let me say this for the young people. They come around and volunteer to help the farmers in the area with their particular tasks. They ask no pay and only receive retribution from the farmer as he wants to donate it.
All right, now we're going to take some telephone calls. We'll get you in on the conversation with Mr. Jerry McCarthy, school committee member of Leiden, Howard Whiteside of the American Civil Liberties Union, and Jerry Williams at 254-5678. Hello?
Hello?
Yes?
Is this you, Jerry?
Who else?
Well, I see you've been having quite a night, especially with the 14th Amendment. I thought I'd throw some light on the matter.
Well, it's the First Amendment we're talking about, really.
Well, the First Amendment was not violated. The thing that threw the ball game was the 14th. It's improperly used.
Okay.
Now, the 14th Amendment came before the several states back in 68, 69 for ratification.
How do you know all this?
Because I'm a lawyer.
Oh, I see. I thought...
I'm a son of Georgetown University.
Okay,
One of the
fine.
best.
Okay, good.
Now, as a matter of fact, at that time it required the ratification of 28 states in order to become a legal part of the Constitution. It never received 28 ratifications. It received 27. And the only way an amendment can be made is by a strict conformity with Article 5, which means that it must be approved by Congress by a 2/3 vote and by a 3/4 ratification by the states.
Well, what are you trying to say?
I'm trying to say that
There is no 14th Amendment.
that there is no 14th Amendment. It has been used illegally when it was first assumed and alleged to have been...
I've heard that old saw by every right-winger in the United States. That's
that
one of
may
the
be
oldest
true, but
saws.
the record will prove it's a fact.
And George Wallace is one of its early
I don't know
proponents.
about George Wallace.
I'm just stating it's for the record, that's all.
Okay.
But that's an old saw. A lot of
That's
groups
right,
like
but
the Liberty
this-
Lobby and...
This fact here is not an old
No,
saw.
I just want to know, just tell you that is a fairly old saw.
Delegates all authority and regulation of religion to the several states.
I see. Well, anyway,
The reason that was done was because they didn't want to have the Christian faith fighting to have one of them made a national religion.
All right, Mr. Whiteside has a
and
comment.
as much as that is vested in them, the Supreme Court of today overstepped its power and jurisdiction by legislative decree, which they have no authority so to do.
Yeah, did I talk to you the other... Did I talk to you the...
And the Supreme Court is wrong.
Did I talk to you the other night?
You did, my good friend.
Jerry,
I just want Mr. Whiteside, and I don't want to get hung up on this question because it really is not relevant.
I'd like to read a short quote from Mr. Justice Roberts' opinion in the case of Cantwell versus Connecticut, decided in 1940. The fundamental concept of liberty embodied in the 14th Amendment embraces the liberties guaranteed by the First Amendment. The First Amendment declares that Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. The 14th Amendment has rendered the legislatures of the states as incompetent as Congress to enact such laws.
I just wanted to tell this gentleman, who incidentally, he and a lady and another gentleman had conspired to make 3 telephone calls. The other gentleman...
All the way from Westfield.
Just a minute, but that other gentleman who wanted to speak on your behalf to come up here on the program, of course, chickened out and did not leave us his name, and I'd like you to leave your name if you would, and some other night I'll have you and Mr. Whiteside debate that, all right?
Okay, but
Thank you very much for calling in, too. 254-5678. Hello? Hello, you're on the air. Turn off the radio. Hello. Next call, please, at 254-5678 on WBZ. Well, I can't wait, while they're... Hello? Hello?
Hello? Hello?
Yeah, either you turn the radio off or I'm going to go on to the next call.
Okay.
Is it off? Hello?
Yes.
Is the radio off?
Yes.
Is it off?
You better make it off.
Next call, please, at 254-5678. Hello?
Hello?
Hello, you're on the air. Turn off your radio now.
I'm on the air now?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Yes. I'm calling not to question or to raise an issue. I am not on either side here, but there are two issues that I believe should be brought before the gentleman under discussion here.
Well, let us try to make it relevant to what we are talking about tonight, and not branch off into whether the 14th Amendment is legal or irrelevant issues. Tonight we're talking about prayer and Bible readings in Leiden, Massachusetts.
Well, I think what I'm going to say has relevance.
Okay, let's make it that, sir, and let's get to it.
Okay. First of all, going back to the Supreme Court, if I understand, the President of the United States and the members of the court are sworn in to their offices with their hands on the Bible, which, in my opinion, suggest that they are, in fact, using religion and the Bible as a means to enter, or as an entree, should we say, into office. The question that I have here is one of separation of church and state. That's number one. Number two is that I do believe that in most public schools, private, parochial, and otherwise, at Christmas time, we have very great celebration programs that use Christmas songs to celebrate the birth of Christ. And this is done in public schools as well as in private. Now, the question that I have, if we are going to allow the celebration of religion in schools during certain periods of times for certain reasons, such as the birth of Christ, then I question whether or not we can reconcile disallowing any form of religion in schools at other times.
Well, one is the law and one is not. Now, we have to deal with the law here. Mr. Whiteside would like to speak to
Yes, I would like to comment on that. If the Christmas time celebrations really are celebrations of a religious holiday, then they are equally in violation of the law as the Leiden prayers of the public schools. If they are historical and a celebration in a secular manner of the Christmas season, that's something else again. And the line is very hard to draw. We have a lot of anomalies in our government. Granted that in certain areas we have recognition of religion which, according to the strict separation of church and state, seems anomalous.
Yeah.
But two wrongs don't make a right. And when somebody moves into a new area of that, then the court speaks and has spoken.
Yeah.
Therefore, I would say that your Christmas analogy was pertinent but not wholly in point.
What about the business of the Supreme Court taking the oath, the justices taking the oath on the Bible?
Yes,
Indeed they do. But they don't have to. In a case stemming from Maryland, it was held that I believe it was a Quaker did not have to take an oath on a Bible or declaring an allegiance to God. It was so held by the United States Supreme Court within a very few years.
If an individual justice didn't want to do
If
that,
an individual justice did not want to do it, he wouldn't have to.
Or the president?
Or the president.
Or anybody.
May I ask you this then, Mr. White? In other words, what you're saying, if I understand you, is that it's a voluntary matter whether these people want to take the oath on the Bible. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. And what I'm saying then is, in effect, It's a voluntary matter in Leiden whether these people want to participate in
Well,
prayer.
it's not, though. You see,
Have
because the
you
court...
polled the people of Leiden?
We're going to poll them. I mean, we have talked to the people in Leiden, and we don't find any dissenter or anyone who objects to what we are doing in the schools. And let me tell you this town has been crawling with newspapermen. They're dying to get somebody in Leiden who would disagree with what we're doing. And so far, they haven't found one. I'd welcome them. I think a lot of people in Leiden are listening to this. I'd like to hear from them.
Mr. McCarthy, you're raising the same matter of standing again. And I pointed out to you in the North Brookfield case that the Attorney General was held to have standing to clamp down on the practice of prayer and Bible reading, even though no parent had offered an objection.
So what you're saying, then, is voluntary prayer in the public school is not permissible. And voluntary...
I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's not permissible in school hours.
Yeah. Well, let's say you're saying it's not permissible to have voluntary prayer or the Bible reading during school hours in Leiden, Massachusetts.
That's right.
And yet you're saying that why then should even a person volunteer? What's the difference if it's a voluntary matter whether a person wants to take the oath of office with the Bible in his hand? I mean, shouldn't he be forbidden if this country's law?
Why should he be forbidden?
Well, then why should our children be forbidden to voluntarily participate in prayer?
Because the children have no say in this. They are being indoctrinated by...
No,
yes, they are. Oh, yes,
no.
they are. Yes.
We are not indoctrinating anyone in any religion, and you may come up to our school and you may stand there and watch this prayer and this going on, and if you... I don't think anybody is being indoctrinated.
The voluntary act of a 10-year-old is not the same thing as the voluntary act of a president-elect.
Well, I fail to follow your reasoning.
Well, do you fail to follow the fact that the Bible is generally regarded as a document of a particular religious group?
Oh, I know it's the document of several religious groups, and it also is not the document of the Mohammedan religion. They follow the Quran. Is that correct? Now, let me tell you what took place in our discussion before that. And I said this to several people on the various newspapers, that it doesn't matter if somebody, one child, or the teacher wants to bring in an expression of faith by the Baha'i religion, or, for example, or any other group.
That doesn't make it right.
They can bring in this statement as long as that...
The court ruled that what you could have in school...
Now, you're getting back to the legal point. Now, we're talking about
we're not.
what's
we're talking
going
about
on.
the legality of it. I'm talking about what the Herald wrote in the article and what the Attorney General is about to do to the school committee of Leiden. That's what we're talking about, not whether or not people are going to be harmed by it.
Well, this
as a matter of
gentleman
fact,
that called
the
up-
court, in one of its decisions, very clearly stated that if you wanted to teach about the Bible in class, it'd probably do a heck of a lot more good than it would to have a sectarian prayer read in school to force children to do something that perhaps they don't want to do. But the teaching of the Bible as a great document of literature or a great religious document is perfectly permissible.
And probably could be indoctrination, don't you think?
No, it could not.
Depending upon the individual
No,
teacher?
it depends upon the school committee and how they taught it to their children, and how alert the people in the community were to indoctrination.
The school committee in Leiden and most school committees works in other positions. It is not a paid position, and they don't work at it full time. Therefore, the administration of the classroom procedures is left up to the teachers and the administrators.
The problem, Mr. McCarthy, is that we're on different horse tracks.
I think
WBZ
you're right.
and WBZ FM, Group W, Westinghouse Broadcasting in Boston. The problem is that we're running on different tracks.
Yes.
Really.
Yeah, I think so.
And what you have to understand, and I am somewhat appalled, is your lack of knowledge of the law since you are breaking it.
Now,
and that's why
told
I would advise as well. I don't care what you told Mr. Wishnow or anybody else.
Well, I care what I told Mr. Wishnow because what he tells me is his word and the word of the people in the
you
program.
don't want me to say anything. Is that it?
Go ahead. What are you going to say?
I'm saying that I'm disturbed
saying
that
if you want to
as
sit
a
here,
public official,
Yeah.
you're the public official and I'm not. And you're answerable not only to people in the community, this is now a statewide issue. And I'm a taxpayer in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and I want very clearly to say that I am somewhat appalled at your lack of knowledge of the law.
Yeah, now this is your statement trying to downgrade me. It has nothing to do with the substance. The substance.